What's up everyone, my name is PJ Denard and welcome to part 2 of a beginner's FPV story. Now, I know at this point, if you've watched part 1, you've already seen my custom quadcopter fly or die. But if you tuned into part 2, that means you're interested in seeing how that drone was assembled. And if you haven't noticed yet, the quad, well, what will be a quad, is still in front of me in pieces. Let's take a closer look at the bench and I'll take you through what all I did to get my FPV drone ready to fly.
First, I put the stack screws into the frame and tighten them down with nylock nuts. Then, I put soft mount gummies in the flight controller and slid it on to those screws. After that, I got the rest of the components out and screwed the motors down to the arms. Once those motors were on, I tinned the ESC pads, tinned the wires, and attached them to the flight controller. Next, I soldered on a battery lead and tinned the rest of the pads I needed. With that done, I attached wires for the video transmitter, camera board, and receiver, and then started mounting them in the quad. Unfortunately though, tragedy struck as I was trying to secure the camera's DVR board onto the stack.
I just made a really big mistake. I don't know if you all will be able to see it there, but I broke off a miniature capacitor. I don't think it's gonna work. If the run cam's broken, I've got to put the build on hold for now. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up my workspace here and go online and look for a replacement part, either the same thing or something similar. And I'll be back at the bench whenever it comes in to catch up with you guys and finish this build. How's it going everybody, and welcome back to the bench. I'm really excited because the replacement split camera came in the mail today, and that means I get to finish up this build. I've still got a little bit of work to do though. I need to finish wiring up the video transmitter, wire up the new camera, mount the receiver, mount the new camera, put the top plate on, and get the drone ready for a short test. So I'll head over here, get all of that done. Hopefully this time I don't break anything, and this quad will be ready to configure.
That broken board may have slowed me down, but it didn't stop me. I was too determined to see this drone come together.
It's just about time to plug this thing into Betaflight and get it configured, but I have one more thing I need to do. Let's plug the quad into the smoke stopper, plug a battery in, and hopefully it will initialize properly and there's no faults in my wiring. Let's plug it into the battery lead of the quad here, and let's turn it on, see if the quad initializes. That means we're good. That means we're good. Yes! It's all wired up. The Wi-Fi didn't detect any shorts. Give me a second to clean up my workspace and grab my computer, and we'll get started with Betaflight. Let's get the drone plugged in via micro USB. I'm also going to run a small fan on it just so the components don't heat up too much. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the CLI and I'm going to type diff all, and it gives me the default configuration on the drone. I'm going to save this to a file. And the next thing we're going to do is go to update firmware, and I'll use auto detect to ensure I select the correct target. I'm going to be flashing Betaflight 4.3, release candidate 3. I'll do a full chip erase, and that should be good. Let's load the firmware. Once everything's loaded up, we'll hit flash firmware. And once it's flashed, we'll see programming successful, and then we'll connect. Failed to open serial port. That's great. There's a boot button on the wiring diagram here, so I should be able to force the quad back into bootloader mode. So I'm going to hold this boot button down lightly. I think I forced it into boot mode. I think so, because it turned on. Let's plug into the computer. Yes, you got it back. Okay, let's connect. Apply custom defaults. Oh, it seems like it worked. I'm gonna type diff all, and let's check. Diff all, beta flight 4.3 February. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, thank you. So we'll connect to the flight controller here. And now that custom defaults are applied, it's telling us what we need to set up. So step one, we'll make sure this is flat on the table here.
And I guess fail to calibrate the accelerometer, which comes back to bite me later.
Oh, do I even know what I'm doing? Okay, so on UART1, we're going to turn on Tramp protocol for the VTX. And then UART2 is saying serial RX, but that's not right. Because on the wiring diagram, we have it on UART4. So we'll turn that on UART4, serial RX. With our ports tab now set up, we can move on to configuration. We don't want air mode permanently enabled. We do want OSD, beacon tone, RX lost, RX set. It will beep when we want to. Save and reboot again. With all that done, we're gonna go to power and battery. The capacity for the batteries I'll be using is 450 milliamp. So we'll put that in and we'll hit save. We'll move on to the failsafe tab. And in the failsafe, this just sets up automatically in its default. When it failsafes, it drops, it shuts off. That's what we want. So we'll save and reboot, save our settings so far, and we'll move on to presets. This quad is installed with an Express Long Range receiver, so I want to use Express Long Range 500 Hertz. I'll copy all this, go to the CLI, put that in there, hit enter, and hit save. Let's go to the motors tab and let's set up that motor protocol. I want to try to use G-Shot 600 with this since it's an F7, so it should be able to work. And now I'm going to hop off Betaflight for just a second. I'm going to go to escconfigurator.com. So we're going to select a serial port just as we do in Betaflight. Connect. So we'll plug that in. So it's picking up the battery voltage, that's good. Let's read the setup here. Now that it's read the ESC settings, we're able to see all of the default values that are set up there. I'm going to be flashing these BL Heli S ESCs to BlueJay. Let's go down here to flash all. It's auto detecting the target, which is very good. Let's go to BlueJay. We'll select the newest version, and I'm going to use 48 for the PWM frequency, and then I will hit flash. And once all of those are flashed, you'll see now the ESCs are listed as BlueJay. So your motors make tones when they start up, and the melody editor is a representation of those tones, and you're able to change those as you like. These are the default tones, and here's the tone I like to use. Once you're happy with the setup, hit accept and write melodies. It will put the new startup tones on the ESCs, and when you disconnect, it will play whatever's put in. Next, I'll go back to the motors tab, and now that we have BlueJay, I'm going to enable bidirectional D-Shot. On this set of micro motors, we have 12 motor poles. So we'll put that in, and let's save and reboot. I'm going to connect the drone to power, and then we'll set these motor directions. So now let's see on the master slider if these motors kick up. Seems all the motors turn on. And now to reorder the motors, we can go to this motor direction wizard.
Set them to standard or reversed based on your chosen propeller direction.
And the next thing I'm going to do is go to the video transmitter tab and upload the VTX table. Once that's loaded up and configured, go ahead and pick your band and channel that you like to fly on and hit save. Just to make sure we got those, we're going to hit save again in the CLI and it will disconnect. Let's move on to the receiver tab. I'll also need to grab my transmitter. and I'll need to open the Express LRS configurator. What a surprise, an update is available. So we have the new version of the configurator installed. I will go down here to Target and choose the device I have. It is a Flywoo 2.4 gigahertz. The manufacturer of this hardware has not provided samples to the developers for evaluation and verification. Proceed at your own risk. Not all features may work. Well, that's fantastic. Aye. Let's try the Wi-Fi mode. Hopefully this works. Set your binding phrase so it automatically binds to your controller. And then you'll come down here and hit build. Great, so that succeeded, and now we have the firmware for the receiver. And now that I've downloaded those files, I'm done with the ELRS configurator. Let's disconnect the quad from my computer. Once again, plug in battery. Let's watch this status LED here. Once it starts fast blinking, the receiver should enter Wi-Fi flashing mode. Once you're connected, the Express LRS update page pops up, and you go down here to firmware update to select the file you just downloaded from the configurator. Once that's there, click update. Update successful, and now it's rebooting. Plug the quad back into my computer, power on my controller, connect to Betaflight, go to the receiver tab. It automatically connected. So I will set my stick low threshold to 1010, my stick high threshold. I like a value around 1990. Everything else is good because we use that preset to set the RC smoothing. Once you're configured here, hit save. Now that the receiver's bound, let's set up the modes tab. The first thing we want to add is arm. So I'll click add range, flip the switch I want it to go to, and drag the slider over top of the yellow.
And do the same for all desired flight options.
Once the modes are set, I'll flip my switches just to make sure everything's set up as it should be, and then hit save. Now that the modes are set, I'll power off my transmitter and configure the OSD. And the OSD tab can be set up a multitude of different ways with tons of different options. Now that my OSD tab is set up as I like, it's time to unplug this quad and put some props on.
Also, if you don't want to try the defaults first, make sure to set your PID values based on your build's class.
Now that everything is configured on this quad, it's time to take it outside for a failsafe and a hover test. It's really, really cold though, so I gotta go grab a hoodie. Give me just a minute. I know originally I said I wanted to do the failsafe test outside, but it is snowing out there and I don't want to take a chance of shorting the drone out. So I'm just gonna do it here in the basement. It's not exactly the safest, but this is all I got right now. All right, so we're gonna plug the battery in, turn on my controller, turn my goggles on, and let's see if the drone will pass a failsafe test. We're going to arm the quad, and then we're going to shut off the controller and make sure the quad shuts off. Perfect. And let's try a hover test. So that means our motors are the wrong direction, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, so we're going to arm the quad. Everything's spinning, and let's give it a little bit of throttle. And yet another runaway. I'm doing it in ESC configurator, thing. All right, so we're gonna try this failsafe test again. Let's see what happens here. Why? I don't understand why you keep doing that. Back to the bench, back to the bench. So after some messing around and asking a few questions on the FPV Know-It-All Discord, I think I got this figured out. I needed to reactivate and recalibrate the accelerometer and also correct the board alignment so the quadcopter's behavior matches the stick inputs. And once again, let's try that hover test. It works! Yes! I wrecked it, but it still works. Whoa, it works! Let's go! And now that I've figured out that board alignment issue, this drone is ready to fly. If you haven't watched part 1 of this mini-series yet, Go watch that first video to learn why I decided to make a custom FPV drone and see whether or not this quad can freestyle. My unexpected journey into the world of drones has been amazing, and I'm so thankful I got the opportunity to become a licensed pilot and learn to work on and use these creative tools. Drones have become my passion and my absolute favorite camera platform, so I know I will want to work with and work on these incredible devices for years to come. Thanks for watching a beginner's FPV story. I'm PJ Denard, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe, everyone.